normal talent with extraordinary tenacity always equals massive success. It's just about massive freaking action, strength of character, strength of will, resolve, backbone. That's what it's about. And don't fear failure. Like I said, fear being in the same freaking place you are right now, a year from now.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Chronicles. I'm your host, Jonny Catani, and the founder of Catani Capital Group. For the last 2 years, I've been studying alternative assets and now help solve the problem of creating passive cash flow for creators, influencers, and busy professionals by bringing you 5 episodes a week of easy to understand education in the world of passive investing. What's up, guys? And welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny Catani, and I'm joined today by Khleif. Rod is a multiple business owner and philanthropist who is passionate about business, high performance, real estate, and giving back. As one of the country's top real estate and peak performance luminaries, he's also owned over 2,000 properties. Rod soared from humble beginnings as a young, impoverished Dutch immigrant to incredible success. His experience involves both remarkable triumphs and spectacular failures, which he affectionately calls seminars. Rod will explain the mindset required to recover from losing $50 million in the crash of 2008 to the success he enjoys today. Rod, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it. Jonny, you go by Jonny?
I respond to all of it, but all my friends call me Jonny. So,
all right, love it. Well, I'm going to pretend we're a friend then. Okay.
Absolutely. I'd love that.
All right.
Well, we kind of alluded here. You have an awesome story. I know you talk about it a lot. There's obviously a ton of value here. So let's kind of get into it. First, I do want to know, though, how, Dutch immigrant kind of discovered real estate and what
it's
led
part
you
of the
to
story.
That.
Yeah, no, it's part of the story. Yeah. So I immigrated when I was 6 years old. Yep. Dutch, wooden shoes, windmills. I came over with my brother, Albert, my mother's Vansha. I actually came over on a boat. And I remember my mom crying when she saw the Statue of Liberty. True story. That's the only memory I have of that. This is 1966. I was 6 years old. We ended up in Denver, Colorado. And we didn't have much. In fact, my mom babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And, I remember, we ate expired food. We shopped at an expired food store. We drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning, which I promise you sounds better than it is. And, I wore hand-me-down Goodwill Salvation Army clothes all the way through junior high school till I finally lied about my age at Burger King, flipping burgers so I could buy my own clothes. My mom, with her babysitting money, was a bit of an entrepreneur. So she actually invested in the stock market successfully in IPOs, but also invested in real estate. And her first real estate acquisition was the house right across the street from us that she bought when I was 14. And then when I was 17, she paid about 30 grand at that time. When I was 17, she told me she made $20,000 in her sleep on that house. I'm like, what? You made 20 grand and you didn't do anything? Screw college, I'm getting into real estate. So I actually got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18. I could actually have my own office. Back then you could do that with education. Now they got smart and you actually need some experience before you can be a broker. But I was a broker. And my first year in real estate, I made about 8 grand. My second year, maybe 10 grand. But my third year, I made over $100,000. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy, another broker. I was smart enough to go work for another broker, and I was dating his daughter. And he taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology and how 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the real estate stuff we talk about on our podcast, Jonny. And so, fast forward to today, like you said, I've owned a couple thousand houses that I've rented long-term. I own thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might say, wow. And I said, wow. And I got a head so big, I could barely fit it through a freaking door. I thought I was a real estate god. And when that happens, God of the universe will give you a nice little smack. Well, that was 2008 and 9. I lost $50 million in 2008 and 9. And like we mentioned before we started recording, I'm known for talking about the mindset it took to have, 50 million to lose in the first place. And then the mindset it took, just as importantly, maybe even more importantly, to recover from that. I thought I was set for life. And so I'm happy to drill down on that with you if you like, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. So, you started as a broker at 18, right? Jumped right into it. Mm-hmm. That can be tough to grow a portfolio like that. So I guess start there,
So like I said, I met this guy and he taught me about, really focusing on mindset and psychology. And then I actually, later in life, I spent 20 years following Tony Robbins around the planet, who's the best in the world at it. But, I just got outside of comfort. I got uncomfortable and I was okay with being uncomfortable. But, this guy taught me all about goal setting and your peer group and some of the things we can talk about today. If you ever come to one of my boot camps, for example, the first hour and 15 minutes we spend doing goals, because how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? You've got to create a burning desire. Napoleon Hill talks about that in his book, Think and Grow Rich. You've really got to want it, because that's how you push through fear. That's how you push through limiting beliefs, or maybe you're comfortable and the comfort zone's a nice warm place. And we all know nothing freaking grows there. Right. And so you've got to create that burning desire. And so, you really need to get aligned on what you want. People ask me, how did you recover from losing $50 million? What I did is I just reassociated with my goals again. It's very easy to get caught up, driving through life, looking in the rearview mirror, reliving past setbacks and failures like I did. I call them seminars, by the way. I don't call them failures, because they're only a failure if you don't get back up or you don't get the lesson. As an entrepreneur, we're like sharks. We only die if we stop swimming, right? And I've actually built 27 businesses in my career. I couldn't believe it when I actually discovered that count a couple of years ago, and several were tens of millions of dollars. Most spectacular flaming seminars. Okay. We fail our way to success. I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx. I'll just digress for a minute. The billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely, the women's undergarments hold everything together.
Yeah. She's pretty awesome.
Yeah. She's amazing. So she started with $5,000 and I know she's worth $1 billion now because she was in Forbes, but I think she sold a controlling stake, but I met her at a mastermind. She told me her dad used to ask her once a week, what have you failed at this week, her and her brother? And I thought, what a freaking awesome question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure. But anyway, yeah. So like I said, it starts with goals. You got to know what it is you want and why you want it. Now, I do a goal setting session with music, professionally done, every year on New Year's Day. I did it New Year's Day this year. If you want to have me guide you through that, go to rodslinks.com, and it's at the bottom there. And there's a guide you can download. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Just go. Here's the sad thing, Johnny. People spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives. And this is designing your life. So, if you're listening and you haven't done your goals in a year, or, and your spouse, grab your spouse, do it together. It's very powerful. I don't mean write them together. I mean, write them individually, but then just see how aligned you are. See if you're headed the same direction, with your spouse. Have your kids do it if they're over 10 years old. It's just incredibly powerful, but it starts there. And again, if you come to my boot camp, I'll tell you, I've got a virtual one coming up. I can tell you how to do that too if you want to come learn this multifamily business. But so it starts there. And then after that, once you get really aligned on your goals, you kind of have to make a decision, and you have to decide, and the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. I mean, if it's done, it's not a 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's not dipping a toe in the water. It's freaking done. If you're going to attack the island in battle, you're burning your ships because you're taking their darn ships home. That's a freaking decision. Okay. And so you've got to make that decision. Sometimes that's the most important decision of your life. And again, like if you're comfortable but you're not happy, you want more out of life. And so many people, are afraid to make that decision. They get caught in analysis paralysis or, fear. And like I said, limiting beliefs. I'll give you an example, limiting belief. When I immigrated, I didn't speak English, and I got thrown into school, and I found out what bullies were for the first time. And then my mom, proud Dutch woman that she was, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in those wooden shoes and the leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest, for show and tell. I got my butt kicked again. And then the bullies would chase me home, and she chased him off with a fly swatter. So next day, butt kicking. And, I came up with this belief system that I wasn't good enough. And a lot of people have these, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not analytical enough. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money, and there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99.9% of them are BS. But this is why you've got to create that burning desire to push through that crap and go take action on what you want. And so, and it starts with that decision. And then the next piece is you got to take the first step. Dr. Martin Luther King says, you take that first step in faith and the next step will be revealed. And here's the thing, I know you've got a lot of analytical people listen to your show. And, when you're analytical, very often you feel like you need to check off every single box before you make a move. And I'm going to tell you, you'll get caught in analysis by paralysis doing it that way. And here's the analogy I want you to think about. If this is you, recognize that you can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlight only seeing 50 feet in front of you. And you can make it. Now, you may have obstacles, but other people have done it before. It's the same way with any business endeavor, whether you're going to invest, in real estate, do something else, buy a business. And so just remember that analogy. You don't have to see the whole path to take action. And I got to tell you, Jonathan, I think the soup is about to hit the fan. I think we're going to see some incredible opportunity in this country in our business. I was mentioning to you, we've got an asset under contract. I've only bought one asset in the last year, 296 unit asset in San Antonio a year ago next month. But it just started opening up. I don't know if you've seen this on your end, but it's really opened up now. And we've got this beautiful asset in Nashville under contract that the numbers are fantastic. And I think it's going to get better. I don't know about you, but I know, Warren Buffett's famous quote, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. Well, there's been a lot of greed the last couple of years. And I don't know about you, but I've been in best and final on deals only to say it's traded for what? It's sold for what? Are you kidding me? How could they have any returns at those numbers? And then, of course, you've seen a lot of bridge debt these last couple of years too. And, that's pretty onerous debt. People were doing bridge debt, it's supposed to be to bridge you from a non-performing asset to a performing asset and a decent loan, but people were using it just to get the higher loan to value. And I think we're going to see a reckoning there as well. People didn't, maybe they got a rate cap of 2%, but 2% on a larger asset, if the rate goes up 2%, can be catastrophic if you're skinny on money. And some of them didn't even have rate caps. So I think, like I said, I think we're going to see some opportunity. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, especially like you said with the bridge, there's going to be not distressed assets, but distressed debt. Yeah. And it's going to force them to have, give up. Like you said, there's going to be opportunity, right? And, right. It's certainly going to require, I think, quick action. It's not going to be like 2008 where, you can.
No. Well, I don't know. I got to tell you,
30%.
Trump, love him or hate him, Trump says it's going to be a depression. And of course, Kiyosaki's been saying it for a decade, and of course, eventually you'll be right. But he Rich Dad, Poor Dad author says it's going to be really bad. But I host a mastermind, and it's pretty much, I'm pretty sure it's the largest of its type. We've got about 16 billion in assets, the operators that are in it. It's called the Multifamily Boardroom. And it's just, guys and women with, 5, 10, 20,000 doors. And we met about 2 months ago. And I was the most bearish one in the room. I was like, hey, it's going to be ugly, guys. And no, everybody else there is, no, it's just going to be a blip and so on and so forth. We'll see. I'm wrong all the time, but I actually think it's going to be pretty ugly. So we'll see. But again, not something to fear, something to get excited about, okay? Because there's just going to be more and more opportunity. And, like I say, be greedy when others are fearful. I think after the midterms, you're going to start seeing the news get really ugly, okay? I saw a headline in Fox yesterday or the day before where they said half the companies in the country are planning layoffs. Now, I don't know where they got that information, but it was right there. And now let me say this. In what's coming, it is really important for you to pay attention to your focus and don't get caught up in the crap they put out on the news, okay? Because, it's very easy to become fearful if you do. And there's so much BS that's getting put out there now. It's almost impossible to see what to believe. I don't know if I don't want to make this a political conversation, but it's hard to trust anything out there anymore with, if the news puts it out. But anyway, I do think opportunity is coming, and I'm excited about it. I'm in a lot of cash right now. It's killing me because the cash is, the inflation's
burning,
killing
quote unquote.
Yeah, right. But we'll see. My kids tell me all the time, you're tired of being wrong, because I'm regularly wrong. But I don't know. I feel pretty strongly there's going to be some opportunity. So, yeah. But anyway, so back to mindset for a minute. So you make a decision and you take that first step. Then, I would encourage you, if you want to be an operator, this business is a team sport, and there are a lot of different hats you can wear if you don't want to just be passive in a deal. And let me mention my boot camp, by the way. So I've got a 2-day virtual boot camp coming up October 15th and 16th, and you come for $97. Yep, that's it. And I don't sell anything there. So it's 16 to 18 hours of training, nothing being sold for $97. If you want to come, go to multifamilybootcamp.com, or if you're driving, just text my name, Rod, to 72345. Okay, Rod to 72345. Yeah. And then if the price has gone up, if you DM me on any social channel, I'll get you a code so you can come for that $97, because it'll go to about $400 eventually, but it's pre-sale right now. So if you want to come, again, I don't sell anything there. I teach every aspect. It's 16 to 18 hours of drinking through a freaking fire hose. I will tell you that. But you know, the only complaint, I've never had a complaint other than the breaks are too short, because I do 15-minute breaks every couple hours. And I promise you it's harder on me than it is you, because I got to eat and pee and everything else in 15 minutes. But listen, if you really want to learn this business, come join me. You'll be glad you did. And like I said, you know, I spend time on mindset as well, because you got to take action with what you learn. And that's why my students have been so incredibly successful, because they actually do it. But so anyway, the next piece, and that's what triggered that in my mind, is play to your strengths. Okay. If you're going to do anything, play to your strengths, because I'm going to tell you, here's why, especially in the multifamily business, because first of all, if you're playing to your strengths, you love what you're doing. Okay. Because you're going to love it, and you're going to be good at it, because it's what you're strong in. And if you're good at it and you love it, you're going to be passionate. And if you're passionate, you'll have the ability to influence people. Okay. And that's super important. Now, in our multifamily business, there's a lot of hats you can wear. Like I said, if you're analytical and you can underwrite deals. If you're more outgoing, you can build relationships with, brokers and investors and so on and so forth. And, you know, if you've got some management experience or project management or construction experience, you can do the asset management piece. So there's just a lot of hats you can wear in our business. And so, like I said, I would encourage you to play to your strengths. And some of the greatest partnerships I see, you know, I host a podcast as well. Like I was mentioning, it's called Lifetime Cash Flow. And we just broke 14 million downloads, which just blows my mind. But, you know, I interview some of the best multifamily operators on the planet. And I see this dynamic where it's an analytical person with an outgoing person. That's the team. And boy, that's a match made in heaven. And so, you know, even if you're listening and you're doing single family flips, wholesales, maybe you own some small singles and some multis, and you can do that yourself, but you can't do this larger multifamily yourself. Do you agree with me, Jonathan?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it's funny because, you know, we're taught for so long, do it yourself. And then you get into this world and you realize it's
hard to let go though. Right? It's kind of hard it's hard for me. I can tell you that, because I'm a little bit of a control freak, and it was very hard for me to, you know, be okay with having partners and so on and so forth. But it's important. And that's how you really maximize this business. And there's strength in numbers. And I don't know about you, but I'll take 20, 30, 40, 50% of something over 100% of nothing any day.
All day long.
Right.
All day long. You'd rather have a whole grape or a quarter of a watermelon.
There you go. There you go.
So one thing I want to touch on with this mindset thing is obviously fear holds a lot of people back, right? Typically going to be fear of failure. And I think fear of embarrassment, fear of humiliation. Yeah. But fear of failure is the biggest for sure. When you look at, you know, successful entrepreneurs, you know, they obviously are very confident people. And what I don't think is talked about as much is how scared they probably are even on a daily basis, right? So how do you help people understand that harnessing that fear is actually the energy that you're going to use to move forward, but you do have to take action? So what does that look like? Because I know. Sure.
So what is fear? Fear? False evidence appearing real, F everything and run, face everything and rise. I'm going to tell you that fear is the biggest thing that holds people back. But here's what's crazy is action mitigates fear. Okay. And so, you know, just go do it. And it will actually mitigate the fear. You just got to push through it. And, you know, sometimes, Tony Robbins, for example, will say, dance with it, you know, just dance with it, just flow with it, get into the flow and flow through it. I will tell you something else. One of the most powerful emotions you have available to you is gratitude. Okay. And And to manifest anything in life, you need gratitude. And I mean, gratitude lowers your heart rate, it boosts your immune system, and it's impossible to be fearful and grateful at the same time. It's impossible to be angry and grateful at the same time. So harness the gratitude. It's an incredible emotion. What I'll do sometimes, regularly, actually, I'll sit in a recliner behind my green screen here, and you can see you can't see them there. My vision boards are right there too. And I'll just sit there and I'll just do gratitude for a few minutes. And then I'll do, gratitude for my beautiful supermodel, beautiful wife, my kids, my foundation, my coaching students. And then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. Sometimes I'll even get emotional being grateful for things I don't have yet. You might be like, okay, he's on foo-foo land right now. Well, this is how I had 50 million to lose and how I bought, I don't know, pushing 5,000 doors in the last 4 or 5 years. Okay. So, poo-poo it all you want, but it freaking works. That gratitude is incredibly effective. And but recognize that everybody has fear. Okay. They only, and the achievers will call it stress. Okay. That's what achievers call fear, stress. And so, you just deal with it. If you really want a higher quality life, if you want, to leave a legacy for your children and their children, I will tell you, I think, like I said, I think we're heading into something that could be very incredible opportunity for people that are up to speed, but getting up to speed as fast as possible is critical. You need to pick your vehicle. If it's a multifamily, for God's sakes, come to my boot camp. But maybe you want to buy businesses. Maybe you want to do single family, whatever it is, get up to speed right now. Because once we're in the thick of it, it's going to be too late. And, you've got to build relationships. You've got to understand how to evaluate deals and so on and so forth. So you need to move on it right away. But, some people are saying it could be the greatest transfer of wealth in our lifetimes. And, I saw it happen in 08, 9, and 10. In fact, if you listen to my podcast, you start to hear a pattern, and that is that the people that have, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 doors all started in 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012. That is what we call a clue, my friends. Okay. And so, but again, fear. So, if you're listening or watching this podcast with us, you're a leader. And right now the world needs leaders. And so, what I'm going to tell you is, as a leader, you really have to pay attention to your focus. Focus is critical. And I alluded to this earlier. Don't get caught up in the news, because whatever you focus on gets larger, both positive or negative. Okay. And so it's critical that you bring in the good stuff. I do clips on my podcast every week called Own Your Power. And they're 5-minute clips. They've got music. You give me 5 minutes a week, I'll juice you. I promise. They're very, very powerful. But regardless, even if it's not me, go on YouTube, watch motivational clips. I love watching shoulders come home. I cry like a little girl, but I love that stuff, And so, bring in the good stuff. Stand guard at the door to your mind as it relates to the crap that's out there right now. They asked Mother Teresa when she was alive if she was anti-war. She said, "No, I'm pro-peace." And I know it's just a play on words, but you see what I'm saying? I'll get people call me and say, "How do I get out of student loan debt?" I'm like, wrong freaking question. How do you make so much money the debt's irrelevant? Okay. So again, really pay attention to that as a leader. Focus is critical. And I will tell you, the most successful people on the planet have the most honed focus. I get excited about my 14 million downloads. Well, I listen to Tim Ferriss. Okay. And then I listen to Joe Rogan as well. Try to get both sides of the aisle, as it were, if I can. But Tim Ferriss interviews the best of the best in the world. And I get excited. He's probably gets 14 million a week. I'm not exaggerating. But he interviews the best people in the various disciplines of life, like the best athletes, Michael Phelps, and NBA, NFL players, and actors like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Foxx, Ed Norton, Hugh Jackman, billionaires like Ray Dalio. I mean, the best of the best. And he deconstructs that success. And I started to hear a pattern, Johnny. They almost all meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus. And it's so easy to get, I don't know about you, but I'll be watching some stupid crap on TV and I'll be scrolling through my social media at the same time. And I get caught doing this, and it's really bad because it kills your focus, because you're making these split second micro decisions. And so, anyway, so focus is super important. Playing to your strengths is super important. And then, you just have to go out there and take action. That's it. My catchphrase is massive freaking action. Action will mitigate just about anything. Yeah. Are you going to get your nose blooded? Yes. Are you butt kicked? Sure. Are you going to have some seminars? Of course you are. That's just it. That's life. But honestly, if you're not really trying. That's the bottom line. And so, all I will tell you is don't be in the same place you are right now a year from now, unless you absolutely freaking love where you are right now. And you have to get a little uncomfortable. And that magnificent, unbelievable life of your dreams is just on the other side of some comfort. So,
yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And one thing I noticed too is, and you mentioned this in the beginning, we're so afraid of our peers, right? Sort of maybe judging us or judgment. Yeah. But what's funny is when you get into this world, you surround yourself with people who are also in this world, AKA changing like you mentioned in the very beginning, changing the people your inner circle, basically. You realize that they embrace failure or seminars just like you should, right? And it's really the people who aren't even trying or are too scared to try that are the ones who are throwing out any kind of shade or judgment. Because I had a guest come on here and he told me he wouldn't invest. He's a passive investor. He's like, I won't invest with you until you can call me and tell me about a failure that you've had in business. And then I'll invest.
That's right? A smart guy. That's a smart guy. Some people are like, you lost 50 million and that might scare some people off. But I can tell you, you think I'm freaking conservative? I'm way beyond conservative. I mean, hit me once, shame on you. Hit me twice, it's Rod's damn fault. Okay. And so, like that Nashville deal, for example, we are at 60% loan to value, long-term fixed rate debt. We're raising 18 million on a, I mean, literally it's a big raise for 145 doors, but we're going to have 8 to 10 cash on cash, 14 to 19 IRR, 20 to 22 AAR. I mean, just fantastic returns with 6 months of operating reserves with, it'll be a B minus to an A minus asset. We're going to change the asset class. And so, again, I am super conservative, which is why I've only got one deal other than that one in the last year. But you're right. And it's good that, that investor, that's a smart statement because there are so many operators out there, brand new operators. That's what I'm talking about here that are going to get a reckoning. If they're not great at the asset management, they're going to get their butts handed to them in what's coming. Okay. And so, but as you said, I want to circle back to what you said about peer group. And I completely forgot to bring that up. Here's the thing. So many people default to a peer group of the ones they went to school with or the ones they work with. And I got to tell you, a lot of those people, out of their fear or their limiting beliefs or their fear of losing you or their fear of feeling embarrassed if you're better than they are, will hold you back. Sometimes out of their love of losing you, they'll hold you back. So I'm going to tell you, love, and sometimes it's family. Okay. And I would say in that regard, love them, but choose your peers proactively. I've got a coaching program. It's called My Warriors, and I'm really proud of something. They own somewhere in I've been teaching less than 5 years, and they own somewhere in the 80 to 90,000 unit range. Okay, wow. I'm super proud of that. Yeah, and the reason I bring this up is most of them were done between warriors. Okay, again, this is a team sport, so get around people that want more out of life. Be very careful about that. In your local environment, find local meetups. Find people are interested in talking about this business because that truly, I will tell you, I think that's probably the biggest secret to success in our business, Johnny, is who you know. It's your network, okay? Because you'll be able to align with people that have done this already, maybe join a team like that for your first deal or two, so when you're out there talking to brokers, you can say, we own 1,000 doors or 500 doors, use the we word, and you just hang your hat with somebody that's already done it. It's an incredibly powerful way to get started. In fact, that's how most people get started. It's called a sponsorship relationship. And so, but who you hang out with is who you become. You show me your 3 best friends, I'll show you who you are. I mean, not just financially, your health, your happiness, everything, because that's just how it works. So I'm really glad you brought that up. That is a key piece to success, who you hang out with.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it becomes more, it's really hard to see, right? Sometimes you have those blinders on, you're like you said, friend, we've been friends since college, whatever it is. Right. And then you get around people who are really pushing themselves, and you realize you're no longer, the smartest one in the room, and you're like, oh, wow, this is so powerful.
Well, that's just it. I mean, and you need to be, you need to be around people that think what you think is hard is easy, which is why I started my mastermind. Okay. I wanted to be around people that think what I think is hard is easy. And of course it did all that. And I had 16 people here at my compound here in Florida. I have a compound, and I paid for everything. I just come down, let's spend a couple of days together. And it was just incredible. It was about $1 billion in assets at that time. And then I'm like, this is amazing. I need to formalize this. And so I did. And, and it's pretty cool. And like I want to circle back to one other thing I said, when you love what you do, you're passionate. And in this business, you have to be able to influence people. And so, that passion, if you love what you do, just people want to be around people that are happy, that are passionate about what they're doing. One other quick piece is not giving up. You've got to have tenacity, persistence, grit, determination, staying power, endurance. There's that book, 3 Feet from the Gold, where this miner, true story about a miner that gave up on a mine, and he was 3 feet from this giant gold vein, but I'm going to tell you that, normal talent with extraordinary tenacity always equals massive success. It's just about massive freaking action, strength of character, strength of will, resolve, backbone, that's what it's about. And don't fear failure. Like I said, fear being in the same freaking place you are right now, a year from now. Now, I'd love to mention a quick thing about goals. I talk about this if you've ever heard me interviewed before, but it's super important. So, when I was 18, I lived in Denver, but I knew I always wanted to live on the beach. And of course, there's no freaking beach in Denver, but I would visualize the palm trees and the sand and the surf. And 20 years later, I built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach. I owned the beach on one side, had my boathouse on the backside. This place was spectacular. Let me real quickly describe it. I mean, giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get the pool. Pools and magazines, big spiral staircase up through the middle of the house, elevator, wine cellar. On the second floor, I had aquariums custom built around the spiral staircase, cost me almost $200,000. So this gives you an idea of the house. So I worked for this thing for 20 years. Okay. 2 months after I moved in, 2 months, 20 years, 2 months, 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. I built it to prove the world I was good enough. That's the truth of it. And my family's inside sleeping, pool's changing colors. It's got fiber optic lighting. And I look up at it and I get depressed. And I don't mean just a little depressed. I mean, I was really depressed. I'm like, what the hell? I've just achieved success like times 10,000. My beautiful family's inside sleeping. I had all the toys, the, stupid crap, the Maseratis and the Mercedes and the boats and the jet skis and all that stuff. And when I look back on it, there were several things happening. One was you should never achieve, and this ties into goals, which is why I wanted to bring it up. You should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. You need a vision for the future. Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. So that's number one. Number two, it's never about the goals. They say the happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the boat and the day they sell the boat, right? I mean, you need the goals to create that burning desire, but it's really happiness comes from progress and growth. And so, that's super important. And if you go to Rod's links and watch that goal setting thing, at the end, I do this weekly planning process that will really help you with that dynamic that I just talked about, progress and growth. But anyway, where was I? But the last thing was I'd been totally focused on me. Rod, show the world I matter, show the world I'm good enough, blah, blah, blah. And that was the year, I went out and bought some books, and because I'm going to get back, I'm not going to stay depressed, for God's sake. So I went out and got Dale Carnegie and Zig Ziglar at the time. And I got a Tony Robbins book and really enjoyed what I read. So I went and saw him live. And this is 22 years ago. And I saw that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. So I went back home and I called my brother in Denver because I was visiting him for Thanksgiving. I said, hey, bro, let's feed 5 families. So he called his church, found 5 families that really needed help. And we bought food and frozen turkeys and toys for their kids if they had them. It was a lot of fun. The third family changed my life, Johnny. We go up to this crappy one bedroom. It wasn't even really a one bedroom. And there was a woman in there with 5 kids. And she comes out and she sees all this stuff on the porch that we bought. And she starts crying. Her kids come out. 2 of the older ones start crying. I start crying, and I'm hooked. And I'm blessed to say, and there's a message in this, so hang with me. It's not ego here. I'm blessed to say in the last 22 years, we've fed somewhere in the neighborhood of 130,000 children here in Sarasota and Bradenton, Florida. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies. We just did 1,800 backpacks 2 weeks ago. We've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for officers to put in their car, if the patrol car, if they encounter a child that needs to be comforted. Now, why do I bring this up? Why? Because we've been taught to achieve to be happy. Like, we shouldn't be happy until we've achieved. But if you give back in any fashion, you are happily achieving. Now, I know that's a play on words, but it's an important one. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. If you want to learn multifamily, for God's sakes, or a skill like that, it's a science. Just come. I'll give you the blueprint. You just go do it. Come to my boot camp or whatever skill you want to learn. There's a roadmap to that. You just have to learn it. But fulfillment is an art. You have to figure out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's the environment or the elderly or animals or whatever it is. Give back right now. If you're young and you got blood dripping from your teeth and you're like, yeah, I'll do it when I have money. No, do it right freaking now, because the money will come faster. Okay. Trust me on that. You don't do it for that reason, but that's just the way God or the universe, whatever you believe, works. But give back right now so that you're happily achieving, you'll be fulfilled. Okay. Trust me on that. You'll thank me. If you're not doing it now, if you incorporate it in your life.
I love that so much. That's such great insight. Because I would say majority of the guests that I've had, people I've talked to outside of the podcast, sometimes they have their own nonprofit or they're associated with one, and every single one of them, actually enjoys talking about that just as much as they love talking about business.
It's interesting. I had a Hall of Fame for my coaching students, first time ever. I had 850 people at a live boot camp that I had in Denver 4 weeks ago, 850 participants. And we brought up 10 people in my 1,000-member coaching program, 10, it was called our Hall of Fame. And what was fascinating, we did a slide for each one of them, and every single one of them has charitable endeavors. Some building schools, some walked 180 miles to raise 200,000 for veterans, and so on and so forth. It was just so validating for me to see that my most successful students are the ones that give back. I was like, wow, that's just so freaking cool. So,
yep. Yeah. That's no accident, needless to say. So, well, Rod, this has been incredible. Your insight, obviously amazing. We're very grateful.
Thank you,
we'll jump now to the final 5 as we close out.
Okay.
First question, best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
Well, I love Tony Robbins' catchphrase, live with passion. This life is not a dress rehearsal. This is it. So just carpe diem, seize every freaking moment you can.
I love it. Yeah. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
Well, those of you listening can't see this, but you can see behind me, I have hundreds, literally probably 1,000 thank you cards. The whole wall behind me is covered with them. Wow. Here from people whose lives I've impacted. And, you might say, okay, that's hyperbole. No, I truly freaking love what I do. It's why my wife puts up with me working Sundays and stuff like that. So getting that feedback, when I tell you I get love just about every single day, I'm not exaggerating. I'll get DMs, cards, gifts. It's just you become addicted. It's incredible.
I love it. It's awesome. Favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
Non-real estate or investment related book. Well, my love language is gifts. Okay. I got to have the author of 5 Love Languages. If you haven't read that one and you love anybody, get that freaking book so you can give them love in the way they feel it. I had the author on my show, but I give away, gifts to my students. They get Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, great book about how to start your day. Turning Pro by Stephen Pressman, about stop being an amateur, become a freaking professional if you're going to go after anything. The Slight Edge, about those little decisions you make every day that traject your life up or down. They're not a big thing when you make them, but it's just, they over years, they can become massive changes. Gary Keller's One Thing. I had the co-author of, and had Hal Elrod on the show too. I had the co-author of The One Thing, Gary Keller's co-author, Jay Papasan, on the show. Well, there's a few.
I love it. Awesome. Yeah, a lot of those are on my list.
Right.
So yeah, great books. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh God. I feel like we fail anybody that doesn't take action on their dreams. So maybe even more of an ability to influence people to push through fear, to take action so they can create that life they deserve for themselves, their kids, their families.
I love it. Yeah, it's so true. Awesome. Last one. I know you kind of plugged a few things throughout the show, but what's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
Yeah, well, Rod's Links has everything. Rodslinks.com has everything. It's got my boot camp website. It's got my podcast. It's got my social media. If you have a question, you ping me on any social channel. I'm incredibly responsive. People are blown away by that. It's got my goal setting workshop. It's got free books you can download. But if you want to come to my boot camp, for God's sakes, if you're serious about, even if you just want to invest passively, why would you give your hard-earned money to someone without having an understanding of what you're doing? You worked hard for that money. Come spend a couple of days with me so you can properly analyze a deal if you get presented with a passive deal. So, text Rod, my name Rod, to 72345. We'll send you the link. And come I promise you'll be glad you did. If you come spend a couple of days with me, you'll enjoy the hell out of the event anyway, because I keep it very interesting. And you'll have enough knowledge so you don't get into it. Like I said, there's going to be some deals go south here, and those investors that invested in those deals are going to have problems. They may lose their investment. I mean, that's very, very real, very possible that they'll lose their investment. Forget the returns. The returns are going to be out the window, but I'm talking they may lose their capital. So don't let that happen to you. Get educated, and if you're going to invest in the stock market, get educated on that. If you're going to invest in businesses, and get educated on that. And multifamily, for $97, kind of a no-brainer.
Absolutely. I love it. We'll put that Rod's links in the show notes, make it super, super easy. Thank you so much for your time.
It was a pleasure, brother. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you again for tuning in. Who do you know that wants more cash flow? Share this episode with them so you can grow your cash flow together. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you're subscribed on your platform of choice so you never miss a new episode. Go to KataniCapitalGroup.com to learn more.